Okay, got you. Okay, so here we are. Because you know what? Let me do well, we're on my phone. We'll stay on my phone. Awesome.
Keep it nice and easy. So, Dr. Roseann, I'm so excited that you're doing this Instagram Live with us this morning here in New Zealand. So it's Monday morning, New Zealand time. And over the weekend, we've watched our coronavirus numbers of people being impacted really significantly increase. And so as over the weekend, as I've watched these numbers and I've watched people in my world, client society, the emails that I've been receiving, I've started to see that the amount of terror, the amount of fear has started to creep in. People are unsure what this means. Events are starting to be cancelled all around New Zealand, around Australia. New Zealanders and Australians are no longer to fly around as they've been able to for the beginning of this year. So while we saw it impacting China and the States, we've had a little bit of a lag over here. So the fear hasn't really crept in, and I don't even like to use the word fear, but there is a lot of people now talking about it. A lot of people, and we both know this from just our immune system anyway. Once fear kicks in, it depletes our immune system anyway. Yeah. So I wanted to get you on as a mental health expert, and you obviously seeing this in America for the past few weeks, and flying all around the States doing interviews to really try and calm down the amount of panic, the fear, and the anxiety that has crept in. Because it's unknown. The reality is, and when me and you are on all our groups that we're in, all the medical groups that we're in, there is a lot of unknown around this virus. We can't say that there's a vaccine that's going to fix this. We can't even say there's a medical treatment that's actually 100% bulletproof going to fix this. So in those situations, that's where fear creeps in, because it's like, well, what is the fix? What do we do? But at the same time, we don't want to let the fear creep in, and we don't want to let the unknown creep in. So I was like, let's get Dr. Roseann to speak first thing on a Monday morning as we start to go to work and as we start to try and do things as normal as possible, but also with an awareness and actually getting educated and empowered.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, you know, we always need the facts, right? So there's a lot of misinformation about the coronavirus. We're a little bit ahead of you in the States about, you know, where we are in this timeline, but it's going to lead to quarantines. It's already leading to quarantines in Europe, in the States. The kids are starting, they're being pulled from school. And then, you know, all of this is so unknown, as you mentioned, Shelley. And what's happening is, because we don't understand, because we've only experienced a pandemic 4 times, right? And not in really modern times, we are afraid because, as you said, there's no known cure. It's easily transmittable. People can be sick and not know it and pass it. And so, you know, people can cough and it can pass. So, and it's disrupting our lives. And even just the disruption of our lives is creating panic and anxiety for people, right? And especially for moms and working moms who have to work and now have to be their kid's teacher. So
totally.
So, and that's really freaking people out for a lot of reasons, because they don't know how they're going to manage it. So, you know, we can talk about some of those tips about how they can actually manage it. But, you know, I think the first thing that people need to realize is that being worried and nervous about this is perfectly normal. And it's okay. And we need to practice a little forgiveness for ourselves in that, you know, this is uncharted territory. Now, what can you do when you're anxious is another story, because when you're anxious, there are things you can do to help you and to bring down your nervous system, calm it down. And as Shelley talked about, and we know through psychoimmunology for decades and decades of research that if you are in a stress state, your nervous system can't work as well. So even if you just rationalize it and say, I've got to take some self-care, I've got to do some things at home and to take care of myself so that I can remain healthy is really important. So there's definite steps that we can take, and we can talk about that, which is good.
So what are the steps that you're suggesting for your patients? Because you obviously, your patients and children, but you obviously deal with the parents as well.
Yeah.
So for children, this is totally different because their parents don't have an answer for a question that they potentially have. So what are the conversations that we can, and if they're not going to school, now their daily routine is disrupted. What are some of the questions or some of the calming techniques, or how are you teaching parents to talk to their children about this?
So, we are mainly working with kids, but we do work with all ages. And you're right. We definitely have parents. And a lot of mums, right? So I love to say mums, as you New Zealanders say, and the Brits say. So we can answer most of the questions that kids have. And I think that's important. So number one, kids look to us as their life preserver. And so the first thing we need to do, right, they teach you in the airplane, is to put your oxygen mask on first, then put your kids on. So what does that mean? Don't freak out. So you need to take a breath. And, that is a very literal expression, and when we say taking a breath, it means taking a deep breath, right? So taking 3 breaths is the quickest way to calm your nervous system down. There is nothing that works as quickly, as effectively. And guess what? You have control over that.
And it's free.
It's free. It's free. And you could do it anywhere. Sometimes I do it when other people are around. It doesn't really matter. I do it a lot when I'm driving.
Me too. Every red light, Roseann, that's my check-in. I used to get annoyed at red lights because I'm a little bit impatient. Now I do it as my breathing time.
Well, anybody who knows me, my number one petty annoyance are all those people that drive in the passing lane. So I do it a lot when I'm driving myself. Anyway, here in the States, people think like they can just drive in the passing lane. It makes me a little crazy. We need to laugh. I promised everybody we would laugh about this. Shelley and I are, if nothing, we're very intelligent.
Comical.
But we're super comical. So, because we need to laugh. It's important. We'll use it as a technique. So, breath. So what is the best way to do your breath? So it is 3 deep breaths, and most people breathe wrong. You can also Google this. You can look it up on YouTube, but you want to do a belly breath. And I like to do a 5, 7, 8 second breath.
Me too.
So you do. It's so
That's
good,
what I teach
right?
clients in clinic too.
Beautiful. So it's 5 seconds in through the nose, right? You're going to hold for 7 and then exhale for 8. And the long exhalation really gets your nervous system regulated. And anybody who's stressed out, who does regular breathing, will tell you this is really helpful. So you can use it in crisis mode, but you can use it for prevention. So if you do it multiple times in the day, your nervous system will sort of tamp down. I always talk about the nervous system. We're supposed to idle here, and here's sort of the max. And right now we're probably up here, and there's a lot of us who, there's a lot of people with clinical issues where it always revs. You need to do everything you can to get your nervous system to idle lower, because when real stress happens, and your body doesn't know a difference between good or bad stress. So like Shelley and I are super spazzy and we get excited easily. So we have to do extra TLC for our nervous system. And that's legit. I mean, I really take very good care of myself out of, being a working woman that stretched myself too thin. And you really have to, no matter what, take time for yourself, and you can find little ways. And so what I tend to do is I do little things throughout the day, and then I do something every night. I typically do biofeedback or pulse electromagnetic frequency. We can talk about that. But let's talk about breath. So a 5, 7, 8. If you already are an anxious person and negative thoughts come into your brain, what you can do is a really cool technique is you actually can take your tongue and put it on the roof of your mouth, and that will stop a disruptive thought.
And also, Roseann, on that note, last week I did a whole newsletter on sleep for my clients, and people that are mouth breathers, which I was, the reason, one of the downfalls of being a mouth breather and not a nose breather is during the night, our tongue should rest on the roof of our mouth for that very reason, because it changes your nervous system throughout the night. And if you're a mouth breather, that never happens. So we never get that reset of our nervous system. So it's a really key thing. And even if you're nervous, or when I'm speaking, like for corporate clients, or even just for all my corporate busy women, in meetings and stuff, you can just rest your tongue on the roof of your mouth, and it's a quick and easy. If you're too flustered for the breath, just put your tongue on the roof of your mouth, and that's a game changer anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. What a great tip, Shelley. I love that.
I'm full of the Roseann. You don't even know the half of it.
I know I don't know the half of it. But that's such a great tip for, so many people are anxious when they talk, and even right now, all you working moms, you're going to be doing video conferencing. And so there's going to be a lot of attention on you. That's a great tip that you can just do off the fly. So deep breathe before, get a little nervous in there. I only get nervous when I do math or I have to parallel park. Let's be honest, right? The rest of the time, it just doesn't happen too often. And I had to do math today and I messed it up. So that's how it works. So taking deep breaths, you can do it for yourself, and kids love this stuff.
That's what I always say to my busy mums too. Kids love copying what their parents are doing.
Yeah.
So it doesn't need to be more work. You can do it together. And what do children need more now than ever? They need the security of their family unit, whatever that looks like. But they need their parents taking control and calming them down too. And so I always get mums like to do stuff like legs up the wall, with their deep breathing at the same time. And I'm like, get your children to do it with you.
Absolutely.
They want to do it too. They love doing what you're doing, so they want to be there as well. And it's a quick way to bring down their nervous system and yours. And it's not more, it's just stacking.
Absolutely. And, it's a great way for self-care, but it's also fun bonding. I mean, my kids didn't know any better, just like how they eat crazy healthy. They don't know any different. And so you just start, when you can. So if you have a newborn, you start then. My kids knew how to do downward dog before they could really even hold themselves fully. I mean, we were just always doing different things. And if you're starting now, that's okay too. You try to get them to join with you. Even my teenager will do some deep breaths with me. I can't promise you he's going to get into a downward dog anymore, but maybe in another year he will. He's 15. So he's getting on the other side of the ornery kind of crankiness. So, meet your kids where they're at, but they're looking for you to be calm. So if you're freaking out, they're going to freak out. Remember that, right? So do your deep breath, calm yourself, whatever healthy techniques you have, and then answer their questions with the best of your knowledge. So I think right now in the States, what's happened, you're in a little bit of a different progression. So now you need to talk to them about what the coronavirus is and how they can prevent getting it, right? So the best ways for prevention. And so that's where, the WHO organization has said hand washing, 30 seconds.
Can we stop there for a second, Roseann, though?
Yeah.
With your client population, like children, before coronavirus, how many people actually knew how to correctly wash their hands?
What a great question. There needs to be a research study on that.
Yes. Like, how many parents actually pre this had a conversation with, like, I have a medical family, so we were brought up with this very early on. I really knew how to clean my hands properly. But I know a lot of people that and children don't know how to wash their hands.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think it was a common discussion, right? I remember showing my kids when they were probably like 2 and they were really trying to become more independent, but it's not like we had ongoing education. I mean, I pulled my 9-year-old aside and I literally was like, we're going to redo, okay? And, you want to wash the tips of your fingers. I showed him I'm actually scrubbing underneath my nails and wiping under my nails. I'm not going to get rid of my pretty nails. And, we went over all of that. And he was like, I know, 2 happy birthdays, Mom. It was really pretty adorable. Give them some power, give them some control. So just like we feel like things are out of control, and it makes us anxious, kids feel anxious in the same way. So give them choices, give them options, and, talk about that. So, I also, you need to talk to your kids and say, if you're not feeling well, I need to know. Um, yeah. And, kids are so used to like, I know my kids sometimes are like, I have a sore throat and I'm like, well, how long has that been going on? And they're like, couple days, you know? And in my house, we have all these herbs and mixtures. They'll just go grab them themselves. And I don't necessarily realize that they're sick. They just use them all the time. So, so talk to them, be explicit, with what the guidelines are. And don't be fear mongering, but this is some serious, serious stuff. I mean, we have to say this is serious. And you can get sick from it. And yes, if they say, are people dying? You can say people are dying, but you can also say the majority of them are over age 80. And that will help quell anxiety. I know when I was traveling a lot. So are you fully banned in travel now?
Not fully, but that
Okay.
makes sense. So we can fly domestically, and if you do fly internationally, we have to quarantine ourselves for 2 weeks. So a lot of people won't be flying.
So the same. So we're the same here in the States. And so when I was traveling a lot, and I was my son was like, Mom, should I be worried about you getting the coronavirus? And I said, I'm not really worried, which is the truth. And I said, Mom, she takes all her vitamins. She's got her amazing throat spray that she's been using for 25 years, and I'm level 10 healthy eater. And he was like, yeah, okay, see you later, Mom. And that was it. And that was the conversation. And he needed me to reassure him. And I did my best. And I spoke to him with honesty, and off I went. So
if she were their reassurance, and parents really taking the time to reassure and talk it through so that the child can voice their concerns, what their fears might be, what they've heard from school, and getting educated and empowered as a parent, so then you can have those conversations with your children.
Such great point, Shelley, because we need to reassure safety, right? Whenever a child is worried about anything that's going on in their environment, you need to do your best to reassure safety. That's why they're coming to you with questions. They're not coming to you so you can freak out together. They're coming to you to get information, and just know this is how I talk to everybody. So, they're coming to you so that that you're like, hey, honey, okay, this is what's going on. Pay attention to your kid. Look at them. Are they biting their fingernails? Do they look tearful? Put your darn phone down, which is, all this is going to be difficult too, because now we're all going to be on our devices, them doing schoolwork, us doing work, and, really try to connect and listen. Kids show they're upset. They don't tell you typically. So they're going to have sleep problems. They might get constipated. They might beat the heck out of their brother more than they normally do. Look for things that are different, or an exaggeration of something that that reflects that they're upset, and really get in there and do your best to try to reassure, because that's what we need, right? Parents have legitimate, adults, parents, we all have legitimate concerns. This is, again, really, really serious. And I think our countries are being really proactive. And so that's what I like to talk about kids with. Okay, so you're upset that they canceled, the state tournaments, sporting events. You're upset that, I didn't buy my Lady Gaga tickets. I'm just telling you, Shelley, I wasn't sure about it.
Another trip that I've had to cancel, Roseann.
I know. Oh my gosh. I was like, yeah, we really who doesn't want to see Lady Gaga? I figured I'll buy them on the reseller for 5 times the price. Will be good. So, but kids want to go to school. Most kids actually want to go to school, and they like, I know, right? And so they're feeling upset, and it's really because of a lack of structure. And so that is absolutely something a parent can control, is how their child or teenager's day is structured. And it is absolutely imperative that they put in structure into their day. And I don't know how much you want to dive into that right now, but
yeah, give us that.
yeah. So, every school here in the States is doing something totally different, every school system. So some schools are hopping and doing video conferencing. Some are doing Google Classroom, which isn't video conferencing. And some kids are being sent home with packets. And a lot of private schools are doing video conferencing, like through Zoom or another type of things. So number one, find out what your school is requiring. Is it all day? Is it 2 hours? Is it this? Is it that? Right? And they're figuring things out too. Your country is probably just a smidge behind us, so they're just right. You haven't started quarantining the kids yet, or you have?
No, we haven't yet.
Yeah. Oh, it's gonna come. It's probably gonna come by the end of your week. My guess, you're not going to go more than another week or two, right? How many cases, do you know how many cases are in?
Confirmed cases, 9 at the moment.
Okay. Yeah. It's going to start exponentially, sort of. Yeah. Where I live, there was one man that has, like 45 minutes away. There's one man that he sort of like became a super infector. So they have this, United States National Guard there locking down for a mile out of the town. So you're going to set a schedule. You're going to, if they're doing online courses, you're going to get their schedule. Hopefully the school sent it, right? My school, kids' school sent it, and you're going to print it out. And then in there, whatever schedule you're making, whether you're making your own, you're modifying a school one, you're going to put breaks in there, okay? Because part of the other thing is parents have not been teachers. And they might think a 6-hour day means the kid's got to sit for 6 hours. That's not how it works. And it's going to be so stressful. You're going to be mad. The kid's going to get upset. And this is not going to last more than a day. So, right? So you want to put in breaks, try to actually put movement. And, kids should be getting 30 minutes of exercise a day. If you're living in an apartment, I would try to look up yoga, family yoga, try to do weightlifting with all those tuna cans that you got at the store. And just get creative. The great news is we do have Google, and you can Google like easy exercises for home, lots of fun things. I know when my kids were little, we always set up obstacle courses in our house. And and we used anything for an obstacle course. I mean, just fun things, jumping in a big box, because you're all probably got a bunch of boxes of things that you've had delivered, using, a towel as a stop point where kids had to leap. And, this is just what's going to happen, because you're all going to go stir crazy. And you need exercise. And the other part of this in the schedule is there needs to be, what they do is then going to lead to earned media time. So you can't just let them be on their devices for 10 hours in a day. It's going to be trouble. And it's going to lead to family stress. And working moms don't need any more stress.
Totally.
And so you need to plan, share that with them, and be super explicit, just like you would with other things, right? But that's the best way to approach it. I don't think even the schools, like I was, one of my clients is a teacher, and we were talking yesterday about how they're doing not an online format, but they are using Google Classroom without video. And she wasn't sure how kids were going to get extra support in her class, in her math class. That's a great question. So then does that mean the parents are going to do it? So, figure things out, do your best, and go ahead.
What you're saying, though, like throughout all of this, is just great summarization of how, as parents and children, we should be living with good health anyway. Like the reality is when you said children with movement, now is the time to implement and teach the next generation how to have the best health possible. Yes, this is a crisis, but yes, as family units, as society, as movements, we can change this story. Like how empowering, like you say, that we can teach our children that they need movement each day, that we can teach our children that they don't want to be on media all day long. Otherwise, there is a stress on their bodies, a stress on their brains, a stress on their mental health. Like these are the conversations that now we get to open up and have with our families, have with our children, have with our schools, have with our work environments. Like just teaching children deep breathing, like what a game changer that we might not have been able to do before. We get to, like, I see so many children in clinic, like of the children of the parents that I see, where they are, their nervous systems are stressed out or they're in this fight or flight state. And so being able to work with the parents and work with the children together, they get to change their health. But now we get to this gift as a society where we all get to have these conversations and we all get to rise up and say, hey, maybe when we're walking our children to school or walking around the neighborhood getting our movement, we stop at each corner and before we cross the road, we do our deep breathing. Like get creative, like you say. Maybe the child has to do 20 deep breaths before they're allowed their screen time. Get creative with, like, I love what you say with the setting up like the mazes and setting up the playtime in the house. Like I grew up with that too. And it was fun. Tripped over things, you banged your head, you did all sorts of things. But it's fun. There's laughter, there's connection. It's a de-stressing time. Parents are getting out of their devices, getting out of their work too. And so we're being forced to create balance in our lives. Most of us, and most of what I see in clinic is we're working long hours. Our devices are getting emails in the evenings and on the weekends. We're not getting that downtime that our body actually needs. And one of the biggest questions I see in clinic is, but is it, like, if I need a nap on a Saturday or if I'm feeling a bit tired, does that mean I'm not in good health? I'm like, no, not at all, because we're not designed to be on 24/7 days a week. If you're not getting any symptoms in your body, if you've got good energy, you've got good mental health, your poos, you're doing well-formed sausage poos every day, then those are signs that you're in good health and your body just needs to rest. Me and you, Roseann, travel a whole bunch. So we do get tired days where we literally do just need to rest.